I'm a general dentist,
Yeah.
and my gross November was 71.5 grand. My average gross is 58 grand a month.
Okay.
Now, anybody watching, some of you will go, well, I knocked that out of the park. And that might be somebody that does implants. That might be somebody that works 6 days a week. That's me working 3 days a week. I love going to work. I haven't marketed for over 19 years now. It's all word of mouth. We're doing something right.
So welcome, guys, to another episode. I'm excited tonight because we've got a very special guest who has done a lot within dentistry. I don't want to give too much away right now because I want him to share his journey with us, and a lot for dentists to really learn from this episode tonight. So do make sure you stick on here until the end to really get all the gems and all the valuable information that's going to be shared by our guest tonight, Dr. Barry Oulton. Dr. Barry, thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Arnold.
Yeah, so Dr. Barry, just as we start, are you able to just give us a little introduction into what you're currently doing and who you are for those that haven't come across you before?
Of course. Thanks very much. So I'm Barry. I am a dentist, and I'll give you the quickest version I can, which will still be a few minutes, right? So I qualified in Leeds, and I did my VT. So I finished VT in January '95, and I worked then in the practice that I did my VT back on the Wirral. So I was born on the Wirral near Liverpool. I went to Leeds Uni, and then I actually decided to do a couple of years down south. So I moved down south, and I've never moved back. So I worked in a load of different practices for 5 years, trying to find out what I really wanted to do, try and experience all different aspects of practice life. And ultimately, I knew what I wanted. So I actually bought my first practice about 25 years ago, September 1999. It was a very rundown NHS practice, and I converted it. I became a VT trainer. I had 5 VTs myself. I was the youngest VT trainer in the UK, and I love sharing. I love imparting information, and I love dentistry in the profession, and I love helping other people. I like symbiotic relationships, Arnold. Yeah. So I ran that. I then I got married. We had 2 young kids. Practice was doing really well. I was working 3.5 days a week, but I had been working 6-7 days a week because I started a squat up in London. And then I found out that my then wife, my youngest daughter, was 2.5. And I found out that my then wife had been having a 2-year affair with a friend of ours. And my world kind of fell apart, and I lost interest in pretty much everything. And this went on for a goodly while. And then I suddenly decided that because there were issues, the girls were struggling, 2 young girls, I thought I needed to sort my stuff out. That's SH1T, but I was polite. I needed to sort my stuff out. So I actually went and did a personal development course where we walked on hot coals, and it was very rah-rah, but it blew my mind. There were aspects of what I learnt on the course that really made me challenge and begin to understand how I process information and how I was generating my feelings. And so I wanted to find out more about this. And I discovered that on this course, what he was really talking about was this thing called neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. So I decided to go and learn it. I spent 7 days and became a practitioner, 14 days and became a master practitioner, then became a master hypnotherapist, became coach certified and qualified. And 3 years after this whole thing went through with my wife, I then met Chloe, who is now my wife, my current wife. And she became a master prac. And running the business, we decided that we wanted to make our patient journey 6-star. We weren't the money, we were doing all right financially, but I wanted to make the business the best I could. I wanted our patient experience to be the best I could. And so we took what we learned in terms of communication. Oh, and by the way, 22, 23 years ago, I was the first dentist in the UK to attend a sales training course. Okay. There was me, another dentist, and a guy called Ashley Latter and Chris Barrow in a hotel room in Manchester. And that course became what has been and has been around for 23 years of the sales course in dentistry. Yeah. So then I learned my NLP, fast forward, and I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. If I can really take what is a mid-1970s concept with new ideas of neuroscience and psychology and influence, and I can produce a process that teaches dentists how to have conversations with patients, I could make a big impact in dentistry. So we built our patient journey, and I took my single-handed practice, working 3.5 days a week, me and a hygienist, and our turnover was just under 1.1 million.
Wow.
And that was, I sold into a corporate 4.5 years ago so that I could do more coaching, because I'm not special. All I did is I became consciously aware of some of the things that inherently I knew, but I didn't know I knew. And I'll explain that in a minute so you understand that. But Chloe and I then put together our treatment presentation process. She was my TCO, so she put together the TCO process. And it dawned on us that we could share this into dentistry and it would make a big impact. And so I started a 2-day training course called Influencing Smiles. Yeah. And that was a 2-day sales communication training. And that was having a massive impact. Anybody that came on it told me that it was life-changing. It was much more about changing them as a person. And I realized that it was more than I could tell people it was. So I continued to run it, but perfectly honest, in the marketplace at the moment, particularly in dentistry, it's a very noisy environment. There's lots on offer: short-term ortho, how to do a fast smile, implant training, all sorts of different things that everybody's vying for the hard-earned money that people like you, Arnold, are generating. And people don't know what they don't know. It's hard to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
So for the last year, I actually stopped the 2-day training because I was giving so many places away in order to see if I could build the reputation of it, that it wasn't financially viable for me to continue to run it. Mm. So I really focused on helping principal dentists, which was the fundamentals of the communication, but actually the systems that we used. Yeah. And that has had a phenomenal effect. So we've become really well known now for our flagship program, which is called Mastermind, and we're good at it. All of our clients are practice owners. Within that process, we train their team in communication. We train their associates in our associate program. I have an associate program, but I don't bang the drum about it. It's something that I envelop people in on a slow basis. And typically with our associates, they double their private turnover when they work with us. Our principals, the aim is to double their general turnover of their business. All of our clients are reporting their best financial months ever. None of it is really focused on money. All of it is focused on the patient journey, communication skills, and Cialdini's principles of influence when it comes to asking for referrals, recommendations, and things like that. So that is a very long-winded answer to say 3 days a week, I'm an associate dentist in the practice that I sold. And for the rest of the time, I am a coach and a business coach to principals. And I do bi-weekly coaching calls for associates to help them when they're in the 12-week program that I offer and I run.
Yeah, no, that's actually quite succinct. I think because you've done so much within dentistry, it's going to be hard to have a snapshot of it all in a few minutes. So I totally understand that. I just want to unpick some of the things you've said there. So
Sure.
going back all the way to you doing the NLP course, what would make a dentist think that's where I need to go to in a time of maybe crisis or where you're needing to really change things? What made you decide that that was the decision or the step to take?
That's a really lovely question. I didn't realize it was NLP. I had followed the guru, a guy called Tony Robbins, for many years. And I was in, it was a time of crisis, primarily because of the pain I was feeling for the troubles that my daughters were going through. And myself, I felt cuckolded. I felt rejected. I was ashamed of myself because I'd asked at the beginning, and I'd effectively, I guess in a way subconsciously, I had ignored for 2 years the signs. And I went to marriage guidance, and I did everything I could. I bought a holiday home so that we could be together as a family. I did everything that I believed that I could to rescue the marriage, not fully realizing that emotionally she'd already checked out. She was sleeping with somebody else. And so for a long time, I beat myself up. I struggled with acceptance of anything. I got into a couple of really messy relationships, which I think I probably did on purpose to almost beat myself up. I don't know. But I decided that for the girls, if it wasn't for the girls, I probably wouldn't be around, because I would have made really bad choices. And I think because of my kids, when I was a teenager or whatever it was, younger than that, people would say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was a really odd one, because I used to say, I want to be a dad. I've got 4 kids. I'd have more. I love being a parent. I'm the biggest kid in the house. So it was the girls really, and my desire to improve things for them, because I fought for a year. I found out about the 2-year affair and then stayed in the house for a year fighting for my kids, because I wanted them 50-50, because there was no way I was going to be a weekend dad. And then it came up that this guy was running this training course in the Excel Center in London, and it was huge. There was like 5,000 of us there. I did it 3 times. The last time I did it, it was like 12,000 people. And I learned something different every single time. And it was in order to help myself, because there was this process called the Dickens process where you release negative emotions. And I thought that would help me. But it was other things. Like I said, right, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. We tend to know what we know. There's a circle around that where we know what we don't know. For example, Arnold, I know that I don't know how to weld, right? I don't know if I ever need to, but then there's this outer circle beyond that where we just don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
So I got presented with things that I was like, holy sugar, this stuff is amazing. And so it was that then made me drive. I wanted to really help my youngest daughter, who was having, she was hurting herself because she was so tense and wound up and angry about situation. And so I went out and sought a training course for practitioner. And then I actually went, and I would fly out to the States to learn and do my master practitioner, which is, so the communication stuff that I share is phenomenally, it's just wonderful and it's life-changing. But as part of master practitioner, you do therapeutic stuff. So that enables me to help other people when appropriate, with some therapeutic things that help you reframe things or there's this thing called a swish pattern. We can help people get over phobias, fast phobia cure, typically 5 to 10 minutes to overcome what could have been a deep-seated phobia for many, many years. So there's some great tools within that. For us, in terms of communication with our patients, we picked up on the true essence of how you build rapport. So I teach people how to do that, because when you learn that, it's like, oh, that makes perfect sense. And it works with everybody. I happen to be in dentistry, but what I teach could be going anywhere. It's about human interaction.
Yeah. What I've found with some successful people like yourselves who I've spoken to within dentistry, is that it's usually something else that you learn from outside of dentistry, which then makes you really successful within dentistry. What advice would you give to dentists who are maybe just managing, and their careers could be much more fruitful if they knew some things which they don't currently know? I mean, to save people from having to get to that point where they're in a point of desperation to change
Yeah.
things, what would you be saying to dentists to really try and come out of that comfort zone and really grow?
Oh, again, you asked some great questions, right? So that sparks a few things in me when you ask that. Comfort for me is one of the biggest killers of drive, ambition, and determination.
Mm.
Because when people are comfortable, by definition, they feel no pain. And we will do something to avoid pain far more than we will to do something to gain pleasure. When you're comfortable, what you determine as the only alternative is to gain more pleasure. And you go, well, I'm all right, right? And so being comfortable is also a state, and a state is something that you create.
Mm.
So when you're comfortable, it's simply because you haven't either generated a perception of pain, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a minute, or that you're not in the deep doo-doo like I felt that I was. And that's what happens with us and human nature, is that very often most people will leave things until they are desperately deep in the doo-doo, so that they genuinely are feeling the pain. And what happens then is it's more painful not to change than it is to change. Because a lot of people perceive change as painful. Or, I'm quite happy where I'm at. I don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
Things like these phrases, right? I don't want to do that because I don't want to lose this. So for me to continually progress, I deem comfort as a negative state. It might feel quite comfortable, but if I'm comfortable, I'm like, right, I'm not growing. I need to do something. And growth does not mean pain. Growth just means if I'm comfortable and I'm not growing, I perceive that as a negative. So I've just enrolled on 3 new courses for the rest of 2023, because I want to keep my journey of personal growth. Because what I attach to not doing that is I do not wish to become stale for the clients that are paying me big sums of money to help them level up and get to their next level. And I believe that in order for me to be the best coach and give the best advice, I need to be at least a level or 2 ahead of them in order to feel comfortable and confident in sharing the information.
Yeah.
So again, a long-winded answer to say, I would love to be recommending that anybody that's watching this doesn't leave it till they're in pain to decide that there's something out there that they don't know that can make a big difference.
Yeah.
And when I speak to dentists, there's not a single person I ever speak to that genuinely says that they don't want more. Now, that could be that they want more time with family, more time with your daughter. You would never say to me, no, I don't want any more time. I'm all right. Your wife would never say to me, I don't want any more time with Lily. Is it Lily?
Yeah. Yes, Lily. Yeah.
I'm all right. I don't want any more time with Lily. Well, if I could show your wife, is she a dentist, by the way?
GP, training GP.
Okay. Assuming she was a dentist for a second, if I could show your wife how to deliver care to her patients in a way that knocked their patient's socks off, that increased her productivity, which meant that her gross income was higher on 3 days a week than it was on 5 days a week, which meant that she could spend more time on her as a person and look after her, which meant that she was even better fixed to be with you, to be with Lily, to be with her patients, then I would call her a fool if she said, no, I'm all right, thanks, I'll stick with what I've got. Now, she might not be in pain right now, right? She's doing the do, she's got her head down, and that's what we dentists do. We get on with what we're getting on. We don't realize that there might be a different way of doing it. So my advice to dentists is explore, get into the groups where people like me are sharing information and think, okay, that makes sense. I'd like to find out how to do that. I joke that it's very hard. Am I allowed to swear, or is that inappropriate?
No, you're okay. You're okay.
It's very hard to f it up in dentistry. There are very few dentists who are completely and utterly broke. It's really easy to make a reasonable income in dentistry, right? People don't realize it's actually really easy to make a substantial income by adding more value to the patients. And I guess there's a part of me that needs to explain that so you understand what I mean. So my focus of attention is on my patient journey. I just accidentally earn more money. So I'm an associate and I work 3 days a week. I don't do implants. I do a small amount of short-term ortho, right? Because it's when you're doing ortho and implants, it's quite easy to have a high gross because your overheads are very high. But I'm a general dentist, and my gross November was 71.5 grand. My average gross is 58 grand a month.
Okay.
Now, anybody watching, some of you will go, well, I knocked that out of the park. And that might be somebody that does implants. That might be somebody that works 6 days a week. That's me working 3 days a week. I love going to work. I haven't marketed for over 19 years now. It's all word of mouth. We're doing something right. And we're knocking our patients' socks off. And it's not about the dentistry. Learning a new clinical skill didn't change any of that. It was learning the soft skills of communication. It was learning how to communicate more clearly in the patient's model of the world, not mine. It was developing a system of treatment, of a co-pilot exam, treatment planning and treatment presentation that opened up the possibility that patients would choose more dentistry. And gobsmackingly, they do. They choose a lot more once-based dentistry. And that's because of the questions that we ask and the care and the love that we show and we give.
No, there's a lot I want to unpack there.
Let's go for it.
First thing is, I noticed that when you were talking about self-development for yourself, you didn't go to a dental course that you needed to get into, because what I find is, as dentists, we're course junkies, and we focus on a lot of dental courses that just are around clinical skills. So that's just one thing I picked out there, that you invest in courses which are not strictly to learn a new skill or a dental skill. When did that change, that you were balancing your development with other courses outside of dentistry?
So I've spent, I think we've calculated one day that it was probably in excess of 400,000 on my further education.
Gosh.
Because a lot of what I did was over in the States, and owning the business, it cost me a lot of, in fact, that doesn't even include loss of income. When did the balance start? So I'm really artistic. This is my daughter's art studio. I'm really artistic. Nice. I wasn't allowed to do art as a kid, but I ended up hand carving smiles. And back in the day, I did my training with a guy called Larry Rosenthal, who was based in New York, and I became a senior instructor for him, both here, West Palm Beach, and Indianapolis. And it started to concern me that artistically I was phenomenal, but I was worried about occlusion, and I was worried about it failing. So I then went and trained in the States with my brain's gone dead. I've done 8 levels of the Dawson Academy. I did, what's the guy over in Seattle? Brain dead. I did Coyce, and I did Spear. And then I went through the problems with the divorce. I started breaking teeth. And so a friend of mine was like, "You're grinding your teeth." And I was like, "Mate, I'm a dentist. I would know if I'm grinding my teeth." I lost another one. I had to have an implant. So I phoned him up and said, "I think you might be right." So he made me a splint, and it kind of got rid of my tension. And I was like, "What's all this about?" So I went and learned about splint therapy in the States. And so then I came back and I am the biggest provider of SCI splints from S4S.
Mm.
And I now lecture on parafunction and splint therapy as well as my communication things. And that's made a huge difference. So that was clinical. And then what I found is that I was able to envelop teaching other dentists about splint therapy, but also then how to sell it. In other words, how to have the communication and the conversation with patients that made it effortless for patients to go, "That's a good idea, let me have one."
Yeah.
And so the two then became hand in hand, is that if I felt I needed to upskill myself on clinical dentistry, I'd go and do a course. But the majority of what I've done in the last 10 years, the majority has been personal development, psychology. Have you heard of Robert Cialdini?
Yes.
He wrote the book Influence, right? So I devoured that book and I started to use it to ask. I developed my own ways of asking for recommendations, referrals, and reviews. And if you were to Google my name or my practice, I think I'm up to 120 and they're all 5-star reviews. Why? Because that's what I ask for.
Mm.
And then I did some training with Cialdini's Institute, and actually did some training with a Cialdini trainer who was a dentist, and learned how he uses the principles. So I wrote my own training course, and then I went to Cialdini's Institute and found out that what I was doing was really good, and there were some tweaks that could make it even better, so that I could pay that forward to my clients and go, right, this is how we ask for referrals, recommendations. This is how we tap into things. This is how we present things in a way that encourage the patients to make the better choice.
Yeah.
So the way that I would explain an amalgam and a crown is so incredibly different from 20 years ago, where I would almost put the patient off because I felt I didn't want to be salesy and I didn't want them to think that I was trying to sell them. I present it now in a way that all my patients go, "Yeah, that makes sense. Let's crown it."
Yeah. So I want to. There was a point where you were talking about, how the turnover really went up in your clinic, over £1 million.
Yeah.
And then you even mentioned how, the gross that you're making was up to 50, 70,000 on some months. Talking about money is not something that dentists find easy. And I just wanted to unpick your brain over, is there a history to that? Why do we struggle to talk about money as dentists? And how, let's start there. Why do we struggle to talk about money as dentists?
I think the majority of dentists get into dentistry because it is a caring profession where we are responsible for. I believe that people say, "What do you do for a living?" And some people go, "Oh, I'm a dentist." And I'm like, "What do you do for a living?" I'm the creator of confidence. I help people to build and maintain their confidence by giving them a beautiful smile. And I believe that I'm in the business of helping people be confident, or whatever it is. We actually ask a question to find out. And I think that when I'm in the confidence building business, I'm worth a fortune. My care, my attention, the way that I look after patients, the way that I find out what really drives them, makes me far more worth than a dental firefighter who's trying to fix a problem, which is what I did when I first qualified as an NHS dentist. And I'm not saying it's NHS or private. I'm just saying that at the time it was NHS.
Yeah.
And I really felt that I was just plugging holes and a firefighter. Yeah. And patient would come in and go, "Any problems?" And if they went no, it was like, "Okay, then everything's fine, off you go." Yeah. There was never a discussion about their desires, how they would like things to be, talking about options. And so I think that became part and parcel of the fact that we undervalue ourselves, the fact that we are a health care service, that it's also means that many dentists aren't comfortable with the fees, with charging. I think fundamentally dentistry has become a fee per hour, like lawyers, and I think they don't really know how to handle questions like, well, you know, why are your crowns £500 when I can go down the road for 300? Yeah. So we have all of the answers for that, right? Where we help. We also have we have some limited beliefs around money. So as part of my training that I share with, part of the training that I give is this thing called wealth mindset discovery, where the 72 questions and every single one of those is a limiting belief around wealth. And most of us don't realize we've got limiting beliefs. But if I said to you, let me ask you, Arnold, right? Complete this phrase for me. Money doesn't grow
on trees.
Okay, so you know that one, right? Money is the root of
all evil.
Okay, so I would then get you to score your belief around that from 0 to 10. And there's 70 other questions. And then what I do is I help them overcome a limiting belief, because, you know, when I was a kid, we didn't have a lot of money. My dad was building a boat, so every penny went into the hobby. And so my mum and my dad used to say things, money doesn't grow on trees, you can't waste that, or this, that, and the other. And you take on this belief without realizing that it's not your belief, it's their belief.
Yeah. And
so I had a belief that rich people are birds, and they only get rich when they crap on people. And so there's a six question system to get rid of a limiting belief that we go through.
Yeah.
And if you think about it for a second, right, I genuinely had a belief, and I got it from my dad, and I could tell you the story about why, but it would take up too much time. But I had a belief that rich people were birds, and they only became rich by crapping on other people because of this one bloke that did it to my dad. And then when I did my question system, which within it is one question called a Cartesian equation, which kind of fries your brain a little bit, and then you answer it and you go, oh my God, that wasn't my belief. Because imagine that I held that belief, which I did for 32 years. Rich people, they only get rich when they're crapping on people. Do you think that in the eyes of my parents, I would ever want to be thought of by them as rich?
Yeah. Yeah.
The answer is absolutely not, right? Because the hidden fear is, if I become rich, my parents will think I'm a bastard, because the only way I got that was by crapping on people. So I did this 6 question thing, which took 3 minutes, blew that belief out the water. And 3 years later, I'd taken the business from $250,000 to over $1 million turnover, because I'd gotten rid of my limiting beliefs around wealth. My focus was on patient service. We charged appropriately for it. We got 30 to 40 new patients recommended every single month. We got no complaints, and we ended up doing really bloody well. And so it dawned on me that actually this combination of my own self-limiting beliefs, my fear of not wanting to be rejected or not wanting to become seen as salesy, my fact that I was worried about money and I focused on the money, meant that that would have been portrayed. And as soon as I dealt with all of that, and it was about service, and we got the fees right, and it was about, I got rid of my limiting beliefs, the whole thing just changed. So it wasn't anything really that changed for the patient. It was what I changed about me and my own beliefs that then flowed through into everything that I did.
Yeah. One thing I like that you were touching on was just knowing the value of what you provide, providing, you know, confidence, giving people confidence. Somebody might say that you've had a long track record, you know, for your dentistry, you've got a portfolio, you're able to charge certain prices for treatments. How does somebody who's starting out actually determine their value in providing confidence with in providing confidence to people?
You are great question. Right. So I'm going to treat you like a patient, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, it's you as the patient that I'm going to rely on for determining the value that I'm going to give you.
Okay.
Now, I believe in myself, not my age, not my experience in dentistry. I mean, they count, but what really counts is I truly give, and I truly care about you, my patient. So Arnold, let me ask you a question, right? How old are you?
I'm 31.
You are a bloody baby, but that's great. So as my dental patient and as your dentist, I'm going to ask you a question. And it's a question you've probably not been asked before in dentistry. In terms of your
Yeah.
right? Look how bloody beaming you are right now.
Yeah, no, I love that. You're using my own words.
I am.
And it's more revealing than me saying, what are your dental aspirations?
But hang on. We even took it deeper then, my friend.
Yeah.
Because I was in rapport, I asked you for what purpose?
Mm.
Nobody wants a white smile. Nobody wants whitening. Nobody wants an implant. Nobody, for God's sake, wants braces. Nobody wants straight teeth. This is, I want you to begin to ask this question tomorrow, right?
Mm.
Nobody wants straight teeth. What we want is what we think straight teeth will give us.
Yeah.
Something emotional, something emotionally positive, or something avoiding something emotionally negative.
Mm.
You said to me, the reason you want that confident smile is to be knowing that you're living life to the full and being around the people that you love.
Yeah.
To you, having a smart, healthy, confident smile is about connection to the people that you love, acceptance, and feeling like you're living life to the full. Would you agree with that?
100%.
That's what I'm serving when I'm serving you as my patient, not your friggin' teeth. I happen to be looking after your teeth, but what I'm really serving is you, the father, the son, the friend, the person that attaches a confident smile to being connected with people. Yeah. I get goosebumps. Seriously, I get goosebumps because now I know when I have Arnold, age 31, in front of me, I know how to look after you and serve you. And let me tell you what that is. Because most dentists would say to you, Arnold, your teeth are perfect. Off you go. I'll see you in 6 months.
12 months.
Even 12 months. And I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, Arnold, one of my areas of special interest is grinding and clenching. And what I know is 98% of us grind and clench when we're sleeping. To ensure that your teeth are like they are today, and we have a really good chance of keeping them like that in 20 years at Lily's graduation, there's several things I'm going to be recommending. Number one is I want to recommend a device that you sleep with at night that actually will help you sleep. It's an amazing thing. But more importantly, it will protect your teeth from grinding and clenching. Number two is I only need to see you once a year. What I am going to do is recommend that I envelop you into our hygiene maintenance therapy program, where you'll see our hygiene therapist who's going to look after your gums and support you 3 times a year. So you've gone from somebody that doesn't really ever need to come to investing certainly £1,000 in the first year, but I feel really bloody brilliant about the fact that we have a really good chance of Arnold having this smile with this health and eating what he wants in 20 years' time, because I now know why we're doing it. Yeah. That's why I love what I do. Just happens to be teeth.
What's so crazy is I've actually, I use a retainer at night, and I do my regular hygiene appointments with a really experienced hygienist. So yeah, that's bang on.
There you go, man. You know, imagine asking that question to every single patient in rapport, but you have to ask it the way I designed it. You can't ask it like, how do you want your teeth to look? Because then you take somebody who you're visual, I get you looking up, but you take somebody who's not visual and they're like, how do I want to talk? I don't know. And then they come and they go, I tried that question. It was it didn't work. And I'm like, you didn't try it properly, did it? You didn't ask it my way. You asked it your way because you're highly visual. So you've gone, how do you want your teeth to look? Well, Doris is not highly visual, but if you ask her in a non-sensory way, you'll get a treatment plan, you'll get a direction filter, and then you go for what purpose, and you can truly find out what it is you're doing to serve them. And this is why I love my job, because I'm serving people. This is why we don't need to market. I get constant recommendations. Patients don't want to leave because we found out more about them than most of their loved ones have ever found out about them. And we did it in a way where they felt really relaxed and comfortable in sharing that information.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And I mean, it just shows, I guess, how you've really invested time into all of this, because I like to think of myself as a good communicator. But then when I hear individuals like yourself talking about communication in this way, you know, it gets me excited that there's still a lot of levels to reach when it comes to communication. So I'll definitely be using this tomorrow. Definitely.
So listen, let me plug for you for a second. I put all of this together for associates on a program called the Linchpin. And the Linchpin is where it's a 12-week program. I drip feed the content to you. First 4 weeks is all about you, understanding how you process information, understanding how other people do, and making you a much better version of yourself because you go away and practice it. Second 4 weeks is about world-class communication, language skills, the one word that makes me 100,000 a year, and how I used to get in my own way. And the third section is about the processes of co-diagnosis, treatment planning, treatment presentation. That means that little old me grosses averaging 58 grand a month doing routine dentistry. 12 weeks drip fed, but then I get you on a Zoom call and I coach you every 2 weeks with all the other associates that are on the program. And then you can continue the coaching going on. That is the way that I'm able to share all of these learnings with associates so that I can help them improve what they're doing with patients, because we all think we're good at communicating. And actually, when you start to learn some nuances of language skills, of hypnotherapy, of hypnotic language, it has a massive impact, not least in being able to serve your patient so that you feel really, truly good about what you're doing. And actually, your patients then flipping love you and send everybody to you, family and friend, which means the money goes up accidentally, which is nice for everybody.
Yes. Yeah, no, I definitely recommend anyone who's watching. I'm going to put Dr. Barry's details in the description below, just to get in touch if you want to find out some more.
Yeah, you can find out more. You can book, associates can book a call with Tom and have a conversation about it. And principals are able to book and have a conversation with me if they want to join the 12-week program or the mastermind. But also, you know, joining the Facebook groups, I share a lot of this stuff out there anyway. Just I'm not there to hold your hand and help you implement and answer your questions like I can on the coaching. Communication alone will easily add. How much do you charge for a crown in your practice?
From 500. So I say about 600 is the average.
Okay. So if you've got a busy dentist, if all that they did was one language pattern, it would help a patient make a better choice between a filling and a crown. They do at least one a day. Let's say they only work 4 days a week. Let's say that it's only 500 quid, not 600 quid. So it's 2 grand a week. Let's say that they only work 46 weeks a year. Just one language, one word, one language switch around is 90,000 extra gross income a year.
Dr. Barry, there's so many questions I'd love to ask you.
I can come again, Arnold.
We're going to need to do a part 2 at some point, and I'm sure people are going to want to hear a part 2.
So honestly, I've got 28 days of training that I need to download. I've got a lot of it into the training portal for my mastermind clients, and they share it with their teams.
Yes.
But then with our mastermind clients, I then take their associates and I want to train them. And it's also it's generous and selfish. Generous because I want to train the associates, but selfish because I want to make the associates so damn good that they make their bosses much more money, which means they're more likely to go, well, we'll stay with him for another year because it was worth every penny for year one. So yeah, happily let's get together again. But check out barryoulton.com.
I'll definitely put it in the description as well. Final question that I ask everyone is 1, 2, and 3. How would you prioritize these about yourself? Would you say that you are a full-blooded clinician whose life is all about the dentistry? Would you say that you are primarily an educator? It's all about teaching fee. That's how you want to be remembered. Or would you say that you're a businessman? That's the number one thing for you. I understand we can all be a little bit of each, but what would you say? How would you rank those for yourself?
So I would say that number one, I am a businessman, because that's what will give me time with my family and my children. And because of that, I am a really great educator, because I can symbiotically make more money by helping other people make more money above what I can as number one, which is an out-and-out clinician. I am an outstanding clinician. I love dentistry. There is a limit to how much I can earn and impact just doing my own clinical dentistry. I may well start. I've just found out on Friday that the company I sold to have chosen that they do not want me to stay in July. I'm probably one of their highest grossing dentists, and our practice is amazing. But for whatever reason, I will be out of clinical dentistry from the 4th of July. Funnily enough, Independence Day. I may well start a small corporate at some stage. But for the next 6 months of 2023, I'm going to put my heart and soul into building my coaching business, because I can touch millions more people's lives through helping thousands of dentists to ask the right questions and help their patients than I can just on my own. So again, I do like long-winded answers. I would say in order, 3, 2, 1. But the one thing that comes above that is that I am husband, father, and self.
So thank you very much, Dr. Barry. Guys, like I said, check out the description and you'll be able to get his details, get in contact with him, especially if you're a dentist wanting to take things to the next level. Dr. Barry, thank you for coming on tonight.
I forgot to tell you something.
Go for it.
The one thing that made a huge difference, and I want everybody to be able to learn this, I developed an injection technique. This has been massively impactful. My patients don't know they've had an injection. And I lecture for Septidon, and I lectured in Paris recently, teaching people how to do an injection where patients have no idea that they've had an injection. And it has been the biggest practice builder it's the biggest practice builder I've ever had. And so we will be, I want people to go and learn that. I want to get it into undergraduate level. Recently, it's only been available online at dentalinjection.com, but it's also available as a webinar free of charge at Septidont. And you can learn how to give an injection where your patients go, what injection? Arnold, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.